All right. Cheers and salutations. Welcome, everybody, to Americans Learn. We're going to get our learn on, and I think now we're at the final. 2 years ago, this video came out. The Byzantine, the Sassanid War, Unbiased History, Byzantine number 4. Now, I'm familiar with Emperor Heracles and his final war. And he has earned the title as the first crusader. After all, I like to play the Byzantine faction for Medieval 2 Total War. And before I pull up this video, I'm encouraging all of you to please support the original content creator, Dovahati. Dovahati has entertained us. We've enjoyed watching an unbiased history of Rome. And I'm pretty sure we all enjoyed these fun adventures. But everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so now here we are for our final battle, for our final war. And what better way to bring up this final war than with my new friend? Greetings, true Romans. At long last, here we are. The adventure is almost at an end, but only together can we truly save the world. We were there when the Republic was founded. We were there when the Republic was standing strong and when it became the Empire. We saw so many heroes, from Cincinnatus to Caesar, Augustus, Trajan, Hadrian, Maximus, Aurelian, Constantine, Majoran. But now this is our final fight. So do as a true Roman shall do. Drink some true Roman wine. Eat some true Roman bread. Make love to your true Roman wife. Boot up and suit up. For today is the final war, the final battle. But in the end, we are the first crusaders to save the world from madness and tyranny. The first crusaders to stand up for justice. And the first crusaders of the Roman Empire. Did you not know you were always the hero? The knight to save the day? Grab your shield and sword. We save the world. That was a good speech there, buddy. All right, here we go. I know I can't believe we reached the end of this, but we haven't reached the end yet because we have 46 minutes and 33 seconds of delicious, unbiased history. Let's save the world, gentlemen and ladies.
To refuse to go, to rage against the dying of the light. Such was the reality true Romans of the era lived by, among them especially the Heraclii. Through great skill and effort on the battlefield under Maurice, Heraclius the Elder solidified his family's patrician status, and thus was able to give his children, Theodora, Maria, and Heraclius the education necessary to preserve it. They would learn how to read and write, math and religion, Greek and Roman history.
Eastern magic. Beware. He denied a comfy, loveful life for duty.
Even as they grew up in the mountainous eastern imperial lands, Heraclius in particular would take a great liking to the heroes of old. Their amazing deeds, their defiance against the odds.
Hold on.
Great liking to the heroes.
He traded it for directions to some place with big-titted women or some. What's he doing? Ignore him. He's mentally LARPing as some ancient emperor or another again.
Heroes of old. Their amazing deeds, their defiance against the odds, their sacrifices for defending civilization, God, and those they were sworn to protect. To have strength, virtue, and faith. These were the lessons the Roman youth learned from them. Staring to the hilly landscapes of his homeland, he wondered, like all have before, just what lessons his life would be remembered for. The day Heraclius got the...
That was a that was an interesting transition. Now I'm going to get serious here, but time is very precious, folks. A lot can happen. Only you can decide your future. Make it something worth livable. Make it worth something worth fighting for.
The news from the east, he knew what its repercussions would be. Maurus, one of Eastern Rome's greatest emperors, had been usurped and murdered by its single worst one, the usurper Phocas. Patrician or pleb, friend or ally, all agreed Phocas was an incompetent, cruel, ugly as all hell, dumb tyrant. He didn't know anything about administration and refused to learn it, killed and purged everyone he was slightly suspicious of, and when Germanus and Constantine plotted to use the Greens and the Blues to overthrow him, he found out and imprisoned them both.
No!
When Khosrau II began devouring the souls of Romans in the east, to pretend he cared, he sent his nephew Domentiolus to lead the eastern armies. And yes, he got all of his legions destroyed by Khosrau, who would then siege and take Dara, destroying the walls Anastasius built to ensure it never resisted chaos again. But Khosrau didn't personally lead his hordes. No, to destroy civilization and Christianity, he conjured his worst minions to do it for him. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Razad, ordered to defend Inner Persia. Sharaplakan, ordered to support the other demons. Shahin, tasked with killing as many Romans as he could. And Sharvaras, tasked with destroying all vestiges of Christianity.
The age of Romans is never. Rome will stand. By the way, I'm playing Medieval 2 Total War, and I'm proud to announce to all of you, as the Byzantine faction, we have conquered, we're at turn 80. We have conquered all of the Italian peninsula, including Sardinia, Corsica, and Sicily. Most of the Balkans belong to us. And we've taken over half of Anatolia, and we are up to, we took Aleppo and Antioch. So we have all that territory, including all the islands, too. But the Mongols have invaded, and they've taken Jerusalem, and they're taking the 2 other neighboring settlements there, too. So now I'm in a bit of a quandary, because I only have 3 strong, full armies, and I don't know whether or not I should declare war on the Mongol horde just yet.
Khosrau II had his horsemen invade both Armenia and Mesopotamia simultaneously. Shahin then defeated Domentiolus at Theodosiopolis, taking most of Armenia, and Sharvaras began sieging many Mesopotamian cities. These losses showed how shit Phocas was at, well, everything, so when Germanus and Constantina tried again to overthrow him, he unleashed his full cruelty. He killed all conspirators.
No!
Imprisoned Germanus, Constantina, and all of her daughters, torturing every single one of them in the most agonizing way possible, especially Constantina, doing unspeakable
Constantina,
things.
no!
Only after days of endless pain, he ordered them to be murdered. Phocas's
Constantina, you shall be avenged.
degenerate behavior went even further, raping the wives of famous popular patricians he envied, such as Photius, and whenever someone in the crowd joked about his regime, he ordered the entire crowd to be massacred. But it's only so far cruelty can get you, which is why he had used the famous Priscus to bolster his regime. Despite marrying him to his daughter himself, when the
No! Ugh. You so stole. You'll learn to love being my pet. Be quiet, woman.
Blues and Greens carried pictures of Priscus and his daughter alongside that of Phocas, he burst in outrage and accused Priscus of trying to outshine him, but couldn't just kill him. Yet. Proving he never cared, he just let Shahin take Theodosiopolis and Sharvaras all of Roman Mesopotamia. And when the plague returned, killing many, he did nothing to address it. Meanwhile, Khosrau II forced a random Roman to pretend being Maurus's dead son, Theodosius, so that he could tell cities to surrender to the Sassanids, saying they were only there to help him against Phocas.
No!
City after city and terrorizing them. With no forts or armies to stop them, Khosrau ordered Shahin to show the Romans what really awaited them. Shahin thus invaded Anatolia, ransacking his way through Cappadocia, defeating another of Phocas's generals, sacking the local city of Caesarea, and just going further and further than any eastern demon had gone before. Leaving a trail of Roman blood, Shahin had reached Chalcedon, right across Constantinople.
Are you serious?
Populace and making prisoners of those few he didn't kill, as a taste of what's to come. Not that Phocas cared, he was too busy getting exploited by the Pope, ironically enough. And after the Patriarch of Constantinople died, he just led the new successor to be approved, Patriarch Sergius, and returned to the raping. With the only thriving part of the empire being Africa, where Heraclius and his siblings, plus his cousin, Nicetas, had grown into strong, virtuous, pious Romans. Growing to a skilled leader and general, Heraclius was engaged with a rich landowner's daughter, and was set for a comfortable life in obscurity. But that's not the path he would choose. As more and more letters from Priscus came detailing the horrors taking place in the east, Heraclius and his father just couldn't take it anymore.
Good.
The crimes against Maurice and his family, the negligence over Roman...
That's right. Sometimes you got to do the right thing. Sorry.
people, and the overwhelming threat of the Sassanids had to be avenged, ended, and destroyed for good. As appointed exarch by the last rightful Roman emperor, Maurice, a governorship derived from the old proconsular authority, Heraclius the Elder reminded all that him and his son, as effective consuls, were the last legitimate authorities left in the empire, thus falling to them to avenge the late emperor's life.
Yes!
In open rebellion against Phocas, Heraclius sent Nicetas to sail to Egypt, where with local support he took Alexandria and most of Egypt, cutting the grain supply to Phocas' regime. Instead of abdicating, or defending what was left of the Roman East, Phocas sent the entire Syrian army to go fight Heraclius' forces. For the crime of not wanting to be ruled by a cruel retard, Phocas' generals slaughtered an entire Egyptian city and attacked Alexandria twice, failing twice, and retreating to Constantinople. With the empire crumbling, its major cities began falling into their own civil wars over which side to support. The blues and greens fought each other, the economy began collapsing, the plague continued to spread, and now the Slavs were invading the Balkans again. Among the many suffering were the Jews in the empire, having never quite recovered after what a certain sinful emperor did to them. Their long-suppressed frustrations, coupled with the blatant Satanism of Monophysites, proved prime targets for the Antichrist, who used his long-range dark spells to incite revolts and internal conflicts through them. The Monophysites and Jews thus began violently revolting against the local cities, killing many Orthodox Romans, and professing sympathies with the Sassanids.
No!
With Phocas leaving Syria completely defenseless, Sharvaras charged forward and raided nearby Antioch. Nicetas, seeing the mess over Syria-Palestina, he took it over before Sharvaras could. And now the moment to save the capital had arrived. After putting a depiction of its traditional protectress, the Virgin Mary, on his ship, Heraclius rallied the African legions under his command, plus some civilized Moorish allies, and sailed towards destiny. Sailing through the Mediterranean, Heraclius' fleet landed on the Bosphorus, getting welcomed and joined by the locals sick of Phocas' bullshit, getting attacked by the usurper's far larger fleet and defeating them anyway. Much like when Phocas revolted against Maurice, when Heraclius suddenly showed up near the capital, Phocas hadn't had enough time to man the Theodosian walls, leaving him defenseless. Monitoring the situation, Khosrau II couldn't allow the useful idiot to lose, so using the same Eastern satanic magic, he tried to get a hold of Priscus, but fighting it off, all it did was make him really sick, and unable to do anything during these events. With Heraclius' men entering Constantinople, Phocas demanded the leaderless excubators to defend him and go kill Heraclius.
I don't think so! That's just beautiful right there. Just adding you in there in the group shot too. Hey, asshole, we're gonna fuck you up. And we're gonna make sure you suffer. Language. Language. Is that the actions of a true Roman? In this rare case, the answer is yes.
Phocas was then tied up and carried to Heraclius' ship at the harbor, his regime now fallen. Standing above him, Heraclius then asked Phocas, "Is this how you rule the empire, scum?" And Phocas replied, "Will you rule it better?"
Yes, asshole. Kill him.
Heraclius then chopped Phocas's cock and balls off for raping Photius' wife, then
Good.
his right arm for Commentiolus, his left arm for Constantina and her children,
Yes.
his right leg for Germanus, his left leg for Narses, and then his head for the rightful Emperor Maurice and the Roman people. Phocas's dismembered torso was then thrown to the plebs to incinerate, alongside Domitiolus and the others, who were lynched to death by the crowds, with Patriarch Sergius getting along very well with Heraclius. Having saved the empire from its worst emperor, Sergius acclaimed Heraclius as the rightful emperor, and married him to Fabia, now Empress Eudokia, getting the approval of both the Senate and the people of the Romans.
Jeez, lady, you're talking about don't stop your tongue kissing there. All right. Hey. That's a true Roman woman right there. Calm down. Act like a Roman. Act like a Roman. Come on.
And when the increasingly frail Heraclius the Elder got the news of his son's success, he finally allowed himself to die of happiness. Now in charge, Heraclius sent Nicidas to take charge in Syria and muster some troops there. However, the remaining army in Anatolia was led by that other Commentiolus, Phocas's brother, who then ordered his legions to march west and kill Heraclius, getting killed himself by his officers, and replaced with the still recovering Priscus. Heraclius then told Khosrau II that Phocas had been killed, and so any pretext of vengeance was now void, but all he did was allow him to drop the act, and just engage in a full-on war of conquest and destruction.
Never!
While Priscus and Nicidas were still organizing Phocas's mess, Shahin invaded Anatolia again and took Caesarea, and Sharvaras got to Antioch before Nicidas, and laid siege to it, and with the city already in anarchy and ruins, he took it with ease.
No.
Inside, Sharvaras destroyed as much as he could, massacring the Roman population and taking many as slaves to the east, where their souls would be devoured, all to ensure the great city would never recover. Nicidas then marched south to save it, but Sharvaras met him in battle, and both sides suffered catastrophic casualties. And even though he was forced to retreat, the cities could not be retaken. At the same time, Priscus had encircled Shahin in Caesarea during the winter, but due to Khosrau's powerful dark magic over him, Shahin broke his way out and returned to the east. Meanwhile, Heraclius was busy re-establishing the bureaucracy and showing his piety to God in many ways, among them having 2 children in 2 years, Epiphania and Heraclius Constantine. As he held dinners and meetings with Sergius, he was constantly approached by his niece, Maria's daughter, Martina, who deeply loved him, and he in turn openly ignored her and her sinful incestuous moves. After hearing of Priscus's fate,
Well, that's very odd.
failure, he could feel something was wrong, and recalled him to become his son's godfather during his baptism. And during the ceremony, Priscus finally succumbed to Khosrau, and began insulting Heraclius on the spot. Seeing he was bewitched, Heraclius struck him with a book, had him tonsured on the spot, and had him sent to a monastery to have the evil cleansed from his system. But Khosrau's curse was too strong, and Priscus died of old age before it could be done. And with his loss, Heraclius rescued Philippicus from his monastery exile to replace him. But Philippicus alone wouldn't suffice. The empire needed all generals it could get. And so, for the first time since Theodosius I, as the Eastern Emperor, Heraclius took it to lead his legions himself. Heraclius then took command of the Anatolian legions, sent Philippicus to distract Shahin, and ordered Nicetus to attack Sharvaras with him. Heraclius confronted Sharvaras first, and both sides again suffered massive casualties, with Sharvaras retreating to Antioch, and Nicetus having similar results in the south. But in the north, as Shahin raided Anatolia, Philippicus countered this by raiding Sassanid Armenia, forcing him to hunt him down to stop it, losing many demons doing so in the mountainous terrain, something Heraclius took great notice of. However, due to the lack of any friendly forts in Syria and the pro-Sassanid agitation, Heraclius and Nicetus had to retreat to Anatolia and Egypt respectively. Sharvaras then seized the chance to take cities like Damascus and marched south, conquering all cities in his path with the help of the Monophysites and Jews. But his main objective was quite obvious. Of all cities in the Levant, Sharvaras headed straight for the birthplace of Christianity, Jerusalem. With his hordes and a sizable volunteer Jewish contingent, Sharvaras took the holy city and installed the bewitched Jews and Monophysites in power. And when the local Orthodox Romans dared resist the occupation, Sharvaras unleashed his full fury. He savagely slaughtered all Romans on the streets, targeting priests and nuns above all, destroyed most buildings in the city and enslaved whatever few were unlucky enough to survive. After destroying all churches and killing 90,000 Romans, Chavaras arrived at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the church built by Constantine and his mother Saint Helena over the tomb of Jesus Christ. Now at the heart of Christianity, the Sassanids' own variation of pagan satanic worship, Zoroastrianism, stepped forth to the stage. Zoroastrianism preached the existence of two fundamental deities and domains, God's order and Satan's chaos. And for their beloved chaos to triumph, the devils required that which had long since been kept safe within that sacred church. Losing his patience as he got closer to it, Chavaras tortured and killed all priests and monks who refused to reveal where the location of that ancient relic was, until the weakest among them broke and told him at last. In their adoration of evil, the Zoroastrian Sassanids came to worship fire, destructive, chaotic fire, closer as they ever were now to incinerate it all. The holiest church in the world was thus set ablaze, all remaining tortured survivors burning alive inside. But the true atrocity was what now laid at the hands of pagan barbarians come. The true cross, Jesus Christ's cross. The half of it Saint Helena had left in Jerusalem. And along with him, he brought the Patriarch of Jerusalem, who he enslaved alongside 37,000 Romans, sending them all with it to Ctesiphon. The destruction of Jerusalem and loss of half of the true cross so weakened Christianity that Khosrau's satanic magic grew to become nearly unstoppable. Wasting no time, Khosrau immediately attacked Eudokia, giving her such a strong epileptic attack, she died immediately after. During his moment of weakness and sorrow, Heraclius was next in Khosrau's attack, and tried forcing him to renounce Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. But Heraclius, after a long struggle, refused to give in, and emerged from the attempt as pious as ever. However, to permanently fortify his soul against Eastern satanic magic, he had to permanently immunize himself with some lesser sin in its place, with the one at hand for the widower being incest. Patriarch Sergius quickly understood the dilemma, and married the incestuous couple together, and even though it was better than Anastasius' curse, it would still have its costs. Indeed, for the cost of resisting the Antichrist being the premature death of all children the couple had together, except the third one, a deaf mute, who also died. But great emperors rarely had time for self-pity. With Phocas having left the Balkans defenseless, the Slavs almost completely took over Illyria and most of Greece, trying again to take Thessalonica, failing again, instead resorting to building ships and raiding some Aegean islands. But the Slavs were nothing but the Avars' bitches at this point, and while they turned into Priscus' bitches recently, they had partially recovered, invading the empire and resuming control over the Slavs. And it was right then that the Visigoths invaded the remains of reconquered Hispania, never to be retaken, though it didn't work out that well for them. While in Italy, the Lombards were still shit at sieging. There was a revolt in Ravenna near Venice.
Venice, what's that? Never heard of it. You ever heard of it? Well, I know in Medieval 2, Total War, you conquered the city, but I mean, it doesn't look too important. No, it really doesn't. Plus, it's built on water. Who does that? Yeah, true. Who does that?
But it was shortly resolved. All of these crises at hand, but few things were as catastrophic as the Empire's finances by then, with the whole being invaded from all sides simultaneously and all. Heraclius thus cut many salaries in half, fully implemented Maurice's Diocletianic supply reform, and true to the times, minted new silver coins, written on them, Deus adiuta Romanis, may God help the Romans. A sentiment proven when Shahin again invaded Anatolia, but this time he ignored Philippus' counter-invasion of Armenia and just went to sack Ankara, Sardis, and Chalcedon again. Watching the fires from the distance, Heraclius ordered an embassy to go talk with Khosrau, but when they arrived, Khosrau imprisoned them, leaving them to die alone in the desert. For the Antichrist, negotiation was never an option. As for Chavaras, he continued his way south, invading Egypt itself, and with Monophysite support, took city after city. In response, the Patriarch of Africa dragged all Monophysite priests in the city to sign an act of union to strengthen the resistance, but they just half-assed it. Nicetus took some reinforcements from Africa, but not having enough men to win a battle against Chavaras's horde, he resorted to garrisoning the cities, but they nevertheless surrendered one after the other to avoid destruction, and soon Alexandria itself was under siege. And they would have resisted were it not for a disgruntled, treacherous pleb who
God damn it, does it always have to be a pleb?
showed Chavaras an abandoned waterway that led straight into the city, which he used to infiltrate Alexandria and started killing indiscriminately. Nicetus fled before he could fall, but it didn't change the fact that the Sassanids now had completely taken over Egypt, placed an exclusively Monophysite leadership in power, and cut all grain shipments to the entire empire, which now had been reduced between a scrap of Thrace and the Taurus Mountains. With the fall of Egypt completely assured of victory, Khosrau sent a letter to Heraclius demanding his submission, calling him his vile slave, boasting of the many cities he destroyed and people he killed. But worst of all, he threatened to completely destroy Constantinople and dared mock Jesus Christ for being unable to escape crucifixion, saying Heraclius would equally fail to escape his fate. Words couldn't describe the despair the Romans were under. The east had fallen to the Sassanids, the west to the Slavs and Avars, Italy and Spain to even more barbarians. Most legions were lost, the holy city had been destroyed by heathens, the grain from Egypt cut off, with the economy in shambles, not a single copper left on the treasury, and Khosrau preparing for a final assault at Constantinople.
So, if you've made it this far, good job. Last year, I lost my grandfather. Last year, I knew some people who were just nothing but snakes and not honest individuals. Earlier this year, I went through a lot of trouble too. But I had people at my side who were with me, and I remember my time in the Marine Corps too, and that is, you never stop fighting. You never, ever give up. You fight till you can't fight no more, and you get up and you keep fighting again. You don't quit. You don't stop. So if I'm not going to quit, none of you are going to quit. And you know something? It's the best goddamn feeling in the world when you can fucking stand on your own 2 feet and win. And that you're fighting. That's the only way you're going to get out of anything. I know a lot of people want to avoid conflict, and that's understandable. I agree. Hey, sometimes diplomacy and talking is the best path forward. But fighting and winning, it's the best feeling in the world. Trust me on it.
And at the face of certain defeat, Heraclius refused this fate and vowed that the Roman Empire would not fall. With the resolve of ancient heroes, Heraclius raised taxes on everyone, took every loan rich patriots could give, put an end to the free food gibes with the lack of Egyptian grain, and began recruiting every man available for a last-ditch effort to save the world. Heraclius was prepared to do anything to save the Roman Empire, even moving the capital to fucking Carthage of all places. The same care went for the Christian faith, proven when Sergius landed Heraclius the entire wealth of the church to support the war effort.
Amen.
With his blessing, Heraclius and Sergius began melting all golden, silver, and copper goods in the church's possession. Candlesticks, ornaments, thrones, artworks, everything to get the wealth necessary for fighting the war. And eventually, they got it. The resources secured, Heraclius went months to meditate in a temple across the Bosphorus, intent on devising the best plan to win the war.
Go ahead!
Listening to much advice, reading about the past campaigns of emperors like Trajan and the Apostate, together with a thorough reading of Maurice's Strategicon, Heraclius came to realize what had to be done. After such enlightened isolation, Heraclius came up with the ultimate, most intricate and thought-through revolutionary strategy to defeat the Sassanids for good.
Alright, let's hear it.
Ignore everything else, personally invade Persia, and fuck it raw. Immediately after, he called upon all remaining legionnaires in the empire to Anatolia and formed a single army. His family he left to Sergius to protect, his capital to his Magister Militum, a general named Bonus to defend, leaving his wife nowhere, with her tagging along with him in his quest for vengeance. With the full support of the church and embarking on this monumental war against satanic heathens, Heraclius would well earn his reputation as the first crusader. Taking command of the tens of thousands of soldiers gathered together, Heraclius followed the Strategicon to the letter and began the campaign with lots of training, and even some mock battles. The plebeian was to be stripped from his men, one by one. He would have nothing but soldiers that lived up to being called Roman legionnaires. Constantly, Heraclius gave speeches to his men, carrying a portrait of Jesus Christ, saying many times, "The Sassanids are fire-worshipping heathens who have destroyed our churches, and God willing, he will lead us to vengeance." But often, after these speeches, Heraclius would be found all alone, drowned in melancholy. And when he was approached and asked what was wrong, he would somberly remind them that this was the last Roman army left in the world. If they lost, everything would fall.
And you gotta win.
Learning of Heraclius' presence, Sharvaras launched a direct invasion of Anatolia, with Heraclius quickly outmaneuvering him into an advantageous Armenian terrain, with Sharvaras pursuing him. With his hordes approaching, Heraclius told his men to act like retards and threw banquet preparations on the battlefield to appear vulnerable. Sharvaras in turn noticed the ambush and tried to make one of his own, but it was discovered. Heraclius trained the legionnaires, then fell into position and beat the Sassanids in close combat.
Where you running?
Sharvaras from Anatolia, with the first Roman victory in a decade. But instead of following that up, he then heard that the Avars planned to attack Constantinople, and to deal with their new Khan, he went there personally to strike a truce. The Khan agreed to a meeting at Heraclea, and as he prepared the festivities to meet with the Avar Khan, the Avars launched an ambush to kidnap him, but he was alerted in time, tore off his regalia and rode like a madman to Constantinople, with the frustrated Avars killing and enslaving the party performers. Losing their chance, the Avars agreed to being paid off from causing trouble, and with the Western Front secured,
stop giving them money!
Heraclius prepared to return to his army and resume the campaign that would decide the empire's fate. Resuming command of his legions, Heraclius planned an audacious strike at the heart of evil, first retaking Theodosiopolis from Shahin and then most of Armenia, destroying a local Sassanid sandcastle and directly invading Persia, heading straight to the cursed desert fortress of Ganzak. Defending it was none other than Khosrau. But when Heraclius arrived before the city, not only did his scouts beat the Sassanid scouts, but he managed to order an attack that killed many of Khosrau's bodyguards, making him flee before he could be captured, leading to the dispersal and destruction of his horde. Entering Ganzak, Heraclius confirmed why Khosrau had bothered to defend it himself, for it housed the unholy Zoroastrian fire temple in his dark domains, the satanic pagan shrine of Adur Gushnasp. Entering this entropy-worshipping hellhole, Heraclius could feel the primordial evil that burned Ardashir and his successors in the air around him. The chaos it festered manifesting the most atrocious thoughts, acts, and feelings mortal minds have ever dared entertain. Channeling this evil, to Heraclius' disgust, now being a demonic statue of Khosrau II, depicting him as an abhorrent deity that would one day rule the entire universe as its dark lord. No more. The evil that sustained the Sassanid tyrants gone with the complete destruction of the shrine, with Heraclius also destroying the birthplace of the demon Zarathustra to completely avenge Jerusalem. Purposefully invading through the eastern mountains, Heraclius rendered the Sassanid numerical and cavalry advantage null and void, even more so after recruiting some Christian mercenaries from the Sassanid-dominated Caucasian lands. Incredible how well this works when you're immune from Eastern magic. Martina would keep giving birth to ill-fated products of incest, but that wasn't the only of Heraclius' pains. Indescribably furious, Khosrau ordered all horsemen to attack Heraclius at the same time, keeping only Razad back to protect himself. With Sharaplakan advancing from northern Persia, Shahin from lower Armenia, and Shavaraz catching up in the west, Heraclius chose to face the closest one first. But not until sending some prisoners fed false information to Shavaraz about his location, buying him a lot of time. After evading him north to Lake Savan, Heraclius gave another great holy speech and crushed Sharaplakan's army, sending him fleeing away to the south. Only a couple of days later, Shahin arrived to link up with Sharaplakan. Too late, that is, getting jumped on by the legions and getting utterly routed, fleeing away with his remaining horde. Heraclius then marched to Armenia, where his homesick Caucasian mercenaries left him, which Shahin saw as a chance to attack again, and getting decimated this time. Shahin and what remained of his horde linked up with Shavaraz, who now found Heraclius' true location. Always maneuvering through the mountains, Shavaraz sent 6,000 Sassanids to block Heraclius' paths through them, camping nearby Lake Van, which Heraclius' scouts soon informed him of. And as Maurice put it in the Strategicon, the Sassanid camps are a chaotic, disorganized mess, very vulnerable to night attacks.
Yes.
And so, as Shavaraz bathed in the tears of tortured innocents nearby his
Do you think eating souls would make them go to our tits? Well, hold on, wait. No, stop. I could fix them. I could fix her, and I could fix her, and I could fix her. Stop. Will you stop? Dude, we're on a crusade. We're trying to save the world here. And you know what? You're embarrassing me. I could fix them. I promise, guys. I couldn't. No, stop.
his Chaos harem and family, he heard that the Romans were suddenly attacking his camp. Caught completely by surprise, Shavaraz ran away naked into the mountains, leaving his family, men, and Chaos harem to be captured by the Romans. After thoroughly humiliating the
damn those tits evil, but
Sassanids, Heraclius marched west to resupply in the empire. But after regrouping with his horde, Shavaraz had all passages and rivers blocked, destroying all bridges in the region, except one, a very obvious bait. But it would have to do. So when Heraclius' army neared that bridge and Shavaraz ambushed them, Heraclius charged with his cavalry head-on, taking several arrows leading the charge, but never once stopping, carving a bloody path to the bridge. Getting so far ahead, his executors and Bucellari had to catch up with him, at which the frustrated Shavaraz commented to a captured Roman, "Look at your emperor. He fears those arrows no more than with an anvil." However, guarding the bridge was a freakishly huge Sassanid soldier, which, at his sight, Heraclius cut down with a single strike, clearing the way out for his men. The legions then broke through the dispersed Sassanids, making for the bridge and returning to the empire, even recapturing Amida and Martiopolis on the way. Shavaraz would keep harassing them on the way, but it didn't stop Heraclius and his men from getting to Caesarea. The blow Heraclius had dealt the Sassanids was unfathomable. After beating all armies and horsemen that were thrown in his way, and most of all destroying Khosrau's main source of satanic power, it was now a matter of time of which side would fall first. Khosrau would then give most remaining hordes to Shavaraz, conjured a whole new horde from hell for Shahin with his waning powers, and sent a formal letter to the Avar Khan, together forming a plot to destroy Constantinople. When Heraclius was informed, as much as it pained him to say it, he could not afford to retreat and give Anatolia to the Sassanids. To do so would be to lose the war.
Defend the city.
Constantinople would be left to defend itself. Sending some reinforcements to the city, now guarded by a few thousand legionnaires, it would all now rest on Sergius and Bonus to defend it. Not really. Its Theodosian walls are bust. Speaking of which, it was now being besieged in the south by Shavaraz, now raiding Chalcedon, and in the north by the Avar Khan and his tens of thousands of Avars, Slavs, Bulgars, Gepids, slaves, vassals, bitches, whatever. The Romans being outnumbered over 100 to 1. On the Avar front, they set up siege towers and catapults, resisting a Bucellari raid from the gates, and when asking Bonus to surrender the city, the Avar Khan received the proper Roman response.
Good!
The siege started with the Avars throwing their Slavs and Bulgars at the walls, with the Sassanids sending ships with troops whenever the Romans were distracted, but the ships were sunk by the Roman navy.
That's right. That's right. taking on the Roman city. By the way, these walls will never break. And Constantinople's walls will never break.
And the Slavs repelled from the first wall. Later, as they continually bombarded the walls, the Avars unleashed 12 siege towers to breach in. But they were carried by mules, and as Belisarius mathematically proved, dead mules don't carry. Despite these losses, the Avars just kept going and sent their full force on the first wall. But the thing about sieging the Theodosian walls was that, even if you managed to have some barbarians cross the moat and jump the first wall, big if that one, of the few that would arrive on the other side alive, they would find a bigger, thicker wall before them, filled with archers shooting them down. And even if through some miracle a barbarian or another managed to cross beyond it, they would find an even bigger, thicker wall before them, with gigantic watchtowers and even more archers on them. Now do you see what Constantine and Euphemius were on about?
Yes.
At the face of repeated losses, the Avar Khan agreed to talk with some Roman diplomats, the trick being he was already talking with the Sassanids. In short, after calling Heraclius a coward of all things repeatedly, he told the Romans to all cowardly abandon Constantinople and cross to Chalcedon across the sea, where he assured, pinky promised that Sharvaras definitely wouldn't just kill all of them on the spot and devour the corpses, further adding that you cannot escape neither the Avars nor the Sassanids, lest you soar into the air like birds or dive into the waves like fish. Or keep killing barbarians like Romans.
No.
For no amount of Avar threats could face the morale Patriarch Sergius had built up among the troops.
Good.
Why, with him parading a depiction of the Virgin Mary on the walls 24/7 and going on repeated theological rants against the pagan barbarians. And indeed, every so often at night, when the Avar Khan and his soldiers would look at the Theodosian walls, they would see a strange woman all by herself and get deeply disturbed. To finally breach the city, the Avar Khan coordinated with Sharvaras to use the Slavs' boats to ferry the Sassanids to the weaker harbor walls and enter the city while they were distracted with another massive frontal assault. But Bonus caught some of the Sassanid envoys on their way back, learning everything about the plan, including that the Slavs would be waiting for fire signals of where to land. So Bonus then lit up some fires near the Golden Horn, let the Slavs land, and killed all of them.
Yes.
Out of spite, if anything, the Avar Khan just kept ordering suicidal attacks at the walls. But after such massive casualties began piling up, seeing Slavs and Bulgars die by the scores just kinda lost its fun. And finally he ordered a full retreat. As they walked away from the city, Fyodor approached the Khan to officialize their defeat and ensure peace. But the Avar Khan had none of it, and assured Fyodor that he would return.
Good.
He never returned. Same for Sharvaras, who lifted his own side of the siege and retreated east, proving once again the genius of Saint Constantine. Awaiting updates from the west, once he heard the siege was repelled, Heraclius thanked the Virgin Mary, put Fyodor in charge of the army, and took a small detachment with him to the Caucasus, and started the end of the war. Leaving for the Caucasus in his special mission, Shahin saw the chance to attack the legions while he was away. And, to put it mildly, he got annihilated by Fyodor. The complete and utter slaughter of his 50,000-strong Sassanid horde so humiliated Shahin that he either killed himself or died of depression, unable as he was to face the wrath of Khosrau.
Wait, who, if anyone, I obey now?
As for Heraclius' northern venture, it was to contact the Khazars, now raiding the distracted Sassanids. To get the barbarian chief to serve Rome, beyond the obvious Christian magic, Heraclius also gave the Khan several expensive gifts, gave him a free pass to loot Persia into oblivion, and promised his daughter Epiphania's hand in marriage, resulting in him pledging his hordes to the emperor, though in a weird way. Now united on the battlefield, Heraclius' first target was to liberate the Christian Caucasus from Sassanid tyranny by taking Tbilisi, making Khosrau send Sharapola Khan with reinforcements to defend it. Defend it against Traction trebuchets, that is. He failed, to no one's shock, and though the Khan's life would be lost in the siege, the Khazars eventually breached in and beat Sharapola Khan. And just like that, the tides of war had shifted. To Heraclius that was all too clear, which is why he had left the Khazars to finish the siege, taking some of them with his legion south, crushing a local Sassanid horde, and invading Mesopotamia yet again.
That's right. Conrad, time is up.
Meanwhile, suffering from his ever weaker state, Khosrau grew ever madder and crueler, dead set on perpetual war. When he heard of Shahin's defeat and death, he ordered his body transported back to Ctesiphon, where he whipped it himself into unrecognizability for his failure. And when Sharaplakan was defeated, he got even madder, so mad that when he learned of Sharvaras's failure to destroy Constantinople, he sent a letter ordering for his officers to kill him, which the Romans intercepted on the way, and gave it to Sharvaras instead. And due to Khosrau's ever weaker grasp on his minions,
See, this is what happens when you fight back. It's always darkest before the dawn. But the dawn is coming.
the indignation made Sharvaras break from his command and act on his own accord. Telling his horde Khosrau also wished to execute hundreds of officers as well, they revolted against him under Sharvaras, depriving Khosrau of his best general. Revolt meaning he marched to Antioch and refused to follow Khosrau's orders anymore. And now, despite 3 decades of war, so many years of fierce campaign, and the advent of winter, even with most of the Khazars leaving for their homeland, Heraclius and the last 25,000 legionnaires in the world marched on to take Khosrau.
Take it on. Get it out. Take out Ctesiphon now.
Having run out of options, Khosrau chose to play his last card, summoning his last horseman, Razad, to the battlefield, giving him the last remains of the hordes he still had and forming one last massive horde to once and for all defeat Heraclius and kill the last of the Romans, with him evading his approach until nearing the ancient ruins of Nineveh. Standing nearby the ruined capital of a long-gone, quote-unquote, civilization, Heraclius chose its plains to prove that where others might fall, Romans would stand victorious. However, fearing the outcome of the battle, Razad and some of his men came to Heraclius the day before it, challenging him to one-on-one combat to decide the victor. Heraclius agreed to the duel, and this fight that was to decide the decades-long war and the fate of both empires was a misswing. And a thrust to the chest, ridding the world of yet another horseman. 2 of his furious subordinates then surprise attacked Heraclius, cutting his mouth, a transgression which cost them dearly. Those too scared to attack him fled the scene, ignoring the duel's terms and set on starting the battle anyway. The Sassanids then split off into 3 separate hordes to attack the Romans, and having learned some tricks from the barbarian nomads, Heraclius ordered a feigned retreat through the plains, only to then suddenly turn back and charge straight at the Sassanids.
That's a tactic I use for Medieval 2 Total War. I have 3 legions of horse archers, 1 in Italy, 1 in the Balkans, and 1 for the Mongols, and or at least 1 in the Middle East. And so far, because I haven't declared war on the Mongols yet, and these are the horse archers that start with, I'm gonna butcher their name, but starts with the letter V. And what I do is I shoot my arrows, have them retreat, shoot my arrows, have them retreat. So it's a lot of micromanaging, but it really works. And I got 1 legion already almost close to gold, another one that's between silver and copper ranked, and the other one that's still fresh recruits. So, but it works. It's a good tactic.
Culmination of the war coming down to a foggy, misty morning, diminishing the power of the Sassanid arrows and cavalry, and thus making it all depend on each soldier's resolve and unit cohesion. It all coming down to discipline, the Romans beat the barbarians in battle, sending the survivors fleeing away, destroying the last army Khosrau had. This great victory achieved, Heraclius celebrated Christmas with his legions in his camp, conducted a raid on one of Khosrau's palaces, recovering several long-lost eagle standards, and organized his troops for one more mission. With the defeat at Nineveh, the chaos in Ctesiphon, and an outbreak of plague, Khosrau's madness only magnified, demanding all—
Have our tents been reducing since the evil shrine's destruction? I could fix those too. Stop it. Will you stop it? We're on Crusade.
all demon men, women and children to prepare and die for his glory. It was at the peak of Khosrau's madness he received a final ultimatum from Heraclius, saying, "Let us pursue peace, let us quench the fire, before it burns down everything." He flat out refused. To burn down everything? Why, that's all Khosrau ever wanted. Meanwhile, near Ctesiphon, as prisoners awaited to have their souls devoured, their enslavement camps were one day suddenly thrown in complete disarray. In but a flash of a moment, all Sassanid guards began falling dead, and for those that would look attentively, they would find their emperor standing right in front of them, having freed the Patriarch of Jerusalem, and all of them as well. After freeing the Roman captives, Heraclius found that Khosrau, in his madness, destroyed all bridges leading to Ctesiphon, forcing him to move north and re-strategize. With the constant defeats and weakening grasp over his minions, Khosrau distrusted them more and more, ordering the imprisonment of his least loyal son, Shario, and ordering all to fight until every last demon was slain. But sad lowly demons, even them ever freer from Khosrau's command, turned their backs on him, with the great demonic Sassanid houses.
In the name of all chaotic houses of Persia Wind, take these honored Shevas and reincarnate Satan!
Led by Sharvaraz's own, forming a conspiracy against him. After murdering all of his sons, the Sassanids shot Khosrau into the ground with arrows, who, after getting so weakened, just bled to death on the floor and vanished from the mortal plane, resulting in the rise of the only surviving son, Shario, to power, now acclaimed as Kavad II. After such devastation brought upon the Sassanids, Kavad II sent a letter to Heraclius' camp, in it containing that which Heraclius had sought for all of these decades. As he read the message, the monumental burden falling from his shoulders as he finished it, Heraclius told his men to go west with the news. The Sassanids had surrendered. Rome had won. In short, after decades of war, the Sassanids were to return all occupied provinces to the empire, free any remaining prisoners they still had, pay a war indemnity, guarantee religious freedom for all Christians under Sassanid tyranny, and return all stolen treasures they had plundered. And now we focus on Kavad again, for peace with the Romans wouldn't save the Sassanids from their fate, as still remaining with all the powers that binded them, more and more local demons began splitting into fragmented hordes, all while the Avars kept invading and the plague spread all throughout western Persia, killing half of the population, including Kavad II. His young son, Ardashir III, succeeded him to power, but only in name, starting a brutal civil war among the Sassanid demons over the privilege of ruling the shitty sand dunes. Word of the chaos in the east later reached Sharvaraz, who after learning they had lost the war and seeing the opportunity to seize power, he made an agreement with Heraclius where he was recognized as the eastern tyrant in return for fucking off without a fuss. For only offering Epiphania's hand in marriage to a barbarian, again, Heraclius had expelled all Sassanids from Roman lands, proving once again the might of the Roman spirit. Sharvaraz would then march east, take Ctesiphon, seize power, and start a brutal purge of all defiant demons therein, something the Khazars were also doing, forcing him to send most of his horde to go drive them off, a horde which the Khazars completely surrounded and destroyed, continuing to lay ruin to the Sassanids. As he looked upon his lands, the
Germans weren't enough, the Huns weren't enough, the Sassanids weren't enough. That's right, Satan, you're done.
Ravages of war, civil war, and plague having laid all of
Time for Plan D.
Satan's work to ruins, Sharvaraz was impaled by a spear, ordered thrown by one of Khosrau's daughters, one of the many you
Let none say there never will, let none say there never will succeed a nation, as lets their affairs carried out by a woman.
usurpers now fighting the civil war. And so the Sassanids continued infighting, fragmenting, and plaguing their way into further and further decline, a path that would lead to their complete destruction in a matter of years, bringing an end to the centuries-old rivalry with Rome, and the final war between them. The Antichrist had been defeated, the horseman of the apocalypse vanquished, and most important of all, the half of the true cross the Sassanids took was returned as part of the peace treaty. And with the triumph of Roman Christianity, the greatest triumph of the era began. Welcome back to Constantinople. Heraclius paraded through the streets on Sassanid war elephants alongside his veterans, displaying the retaken True Cross and celebrating with all the end of the war. Declaring over a week of festivities, Heraclius was acclaimed not as Persicus, not as the Great, but as Scipio, as the legendary hero that saved Rome from its worst barbarian rivals at its darkest hour. So that all could behold it, Heraclius placed the cross on the Hagia Sophia as his foremost thanks to God for this great victory, as well as for the son he had with Martina that wasn't doomed to incestuous death, Heraclonus, little Heraclius.
You're gonna make him first in line heir, right? Right?
Of course, the cross didn't remain there, with Heraclius later returning it to its original, now restored resting place, Saint Constantine's Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It was almost too good to be true, but there it was, and with the true cross returned to its rightful place, the Sassanids defeated for good, and the empire stable and at peace, Heraclius had realized the dream that he once had. A dream to save his people from tyranny and dishonorable usurpers. A dream to save his Christian brothers and sisters from the heathens that so antagonized them. A dream to defend his homeland and civilization from those that would see it destroyed and forgotten. A dream to purge this rotten world of all the traitorous heathens and barbarians that infested it. A dream Heraclius fought for his entire life. A dream called Rome. However, this was not the end of Heraclius' story. It is often said that had Heraclius died right then and there, he would have been remembered as one of Rome's greatest heroes, which he was. But history is a fickle bitch, and just when the empire began recovering from the war, it would face a new enemy emerging from the southern deserts. An enemy so great it would torment the Romans for far longer than the Sassanids. An enemy so strong it would indeed, eventually, bring the apocalypse. The enemy of... What was that?
What's going on?
Yeah, duh. We all know what happens next. The hell you mean I can't? It's what the series is all about. I don't like to pull punches, sure, but...
Oh.
Yes, I know. But still, to treat them as being beyond this level of banter is such patronizing bullshit, treating them like children. I did it with the Germans, Gauls, Jews, Britons, Persians, fucking Samnites, damned everyone the Romans despised and... Just give it to me here. I'll read it myself. Oh. Ugh. I think you're right.
The Holy Book of Community Guidelines. I despise the guidelines. I know, buddy. Shush. Hey, listen. You're lucky he's not drinking, okay? If he drinks some good whiskey and some good wine, he'll rant for hours about the community guidelines. No. The true Romans need to hear what I have to say. These community guidelines are bull... It's all right. Listen. Are you censoring me? No, I'm not. But, dude, let's just hear him out and see what happens. I have opinions.
Hard to say, because this seems to be written as broadly as possible to maximize fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And you don't need to tell me twice about some people taking seriously. I already know some just don't care for disclaimers. Don't know why I even bother making those. But I can't just stop now. No way, we've come so far. Have you any idea about the wild shit that happens next? Gouging every single one of their eyes, all crazy wild stuff. So yeah, not missing out any of that shit. Well, we could approach it in a different way. A different series, so to speak. Hear me out. Really now, imagine me portraying them like I did the Huns or the Germans, God forbid. Can you imagine that on YouTube? Yeah, so it's a different kind of thing. But wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, I think I'll do it. Yeah, definitely. Nah, if I ask the plutocracy, we'll ruin the surprise. I'm sure they'll like it. Who cares what the plebs think? They just watch it for free.
Yeah, forget the plebs.
Yeah, right. See you in the favela. No, I'm not directly asking them to like, comment, and subscribe. It's the cringiest part of every video.
But everyone, please be sure to support the original content creator. I know it might sound cringe, but it's the right thing to do for Dova Hattie. After all, he's a true Roman. God damn it.
these days. Point taken. We're all slaves to the satanic algorithm. Really now. Ciao ciao. Gotta finish this story for real.
I can't believe it. Well, if you made it all the way to the end, folks, listen, we here at Americans Learn encourage all of you to please support the original content creator. It's the right thing to do. It's the one thing to do. And all of you should do it. Why? Because you're a true Roman after all. And that's what true Romans do. But we're at the end now. We're really at the end? Yes, we are. I wanted to just say, first of all, I had a friend send me this wonderful, wonderful Roman council. And he will have a nice, safe space here at my home. So apologies if he might have been interrupting here and there. He won't be a continuous character unless there's truly some Roman content. Unless you guys want me. Hold on. Take it easy. Take it easy, buddy. So what can we take away from this whole series? First of all, if you want to read and check out true Roman history and everything else, yes, there's a lot of great YouTube channels that cover history, that cover the great battles. But I think this unbiased history, what Dovahati did through humor, through art, through comedy, through everything that he's done, has inspired people to look at the truth. And look, history is a very complicated but important subject matter that we must cover. And the Roman Empire, be it in its early days as a city-state to becoming a republic, an empire, being split into two, becoming the Eastern Roman Empire, still resonates to this day. Hell, even I'm trying to recreate the Roman Empire through my campaign of Medieval 2 Total War. I reconquered Italy. I've reconquered all of the Balkans, have all of Greece, almost half of Anatolia, and certain parts of the Middle East under my control. But, there's a dream called Rome. And through comedy, it should inspire all of you to know more about history. But as a final note for this fantastic adventure, Roman Council, do you have any final words to say to the people? Yes, I do. So we reached the end to this great journey. We saved the world. No, we couldn't change history, but we were there together as one. And so I say this to you, my friends. Farewell. Do not cry that this entire series is over. Smile that it happened. And remember the lessons that you learned. To be honorable, to be truthful, to be a true Roman. But more importantly, to fight. Fight for what you believe in and stand against injustice. To stand for those who cannot stand for themselves. To be the warrior that you're meant to be. Our adventure is over. But no matter what, if I ever saw true Romans, it was all of you. So thank you. For you are true Romans. Never forget that. And always fight. There's always light at the end of the night. And you will never break. My friend, I hope to see you again. Maybe we'll have a series checking out Aurelian or some other Roman content. That would be great if the people asked for it. Yes, it would. It would indeed. Buddy, take care. And as for all you, take it from me. Never stop fighting. Because you know something? When you fight, you can show people that you can win. And when you win, you get stuff like this.
At Constantinople, and at the face of certain defeat,
Fight!
Heraclius refused this fate and vowed that the Roman Empire would not fall. With the resolve of ancient heroes, Heraclius raised taxes on everyone, took every loan which patriots could give, put an end to the free food gibbs with the lack of Egyptian grain, and began recruiting every man available for a last-ditch effort to save the world. Heraclius was prepared to do anything to save the Roman Empire, even moving the capital to fucking Carthage of all places. The same care went for the Christian faith, proven when Sergius landed Heraclius the entire wealth of the church to support the war effort. With his blessing.
Beautiful. And when you fight, you win. Never give up, never surrender. Until then, people who subscribe to Americans Learn, be true Romans. And let us save our world. It's too late to save the past, but we can save the future. Hail Rome.